bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum. Hey, pretty celebratory Bindi on this Friday morning. Welcome to another edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. I'm Marcus Grant, joined by Parker Bell and Jeff Spiegel, as usual, on a Friday. Happy Friday, gents. We were saying before the show that Michael Conforto does a big thing. Sanders Scott has a big game, and somehow there's no Greg Bergman here to celebrate it. I don't understand.
Weird. Yeah, it's amazing how those medical appointments pop up, as soon as the guys he doesn't like do things well. So I'm gonna have to talk offline with him about that.
Seriously, like all of a sudden, like we get big moments out of some of these guys who are struggling, and then suddenly, like, oh, I gotta get my teeth cleaned. Like, really? Come on. No, in all seriousness, this was planned in advance. It just happened to work out. By the way, before we get into what happened yesterday and looking at the weekend, I want to give a shout out to the folks at LAX, transforming the travel experience, saving guest time. The People Mover train should be an exciting addition, hopefully coming early next year. For more information, you can go to flylax.com/transforminglax. All right, so let's get into it. The Dodgers end up splitting the 4-game set against the Mets. They do it with a come-from-behind win. The final score was 6-5 in that one. And, Jeff, we alluded to it. Michael Conforto breaks an 0-for-30 streak with runners in scoring position. In fact, for the first time in 2025, Michael Conforto gets a hit with 2 outs in an inning. Look, he's been getting hammered all year long, understandably, but it does feel like, he did something good. It feels like we should give him his flowers, at least for one day.
Yeah, we gotta show the man a little bit of respect. It's like we pile on when things are bad, so we gotta applaud a little. Look, it's one hit, and it wasn't, the most amazing hit we've ever seen in our lives, but he did his job and he punched it through the hole and got the run in. So we keep saying, hopefully this is the thing. Hopefully this is the thing that gets him going. As I believe the last remaining man on Michael Conforto Island, we are hopeful that this is the thing that gets him going. I wouldn't say I'm overly optimistic, maybe more stubborn at this point, but just good for him. Again, the mental side of the game, if that starts to click for him, if he starts to believe, that I think is the only optimism we have left.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it's little things, right? I don't think anybody is going to look at what happened yesterday and suddenly feel like Michael Conforto is back, but he does come through in a huge situation when they needed him to. But the other part of this, Parker, was what got it to that situation. The play that tied the game, which was maybe the most Three Stooges play I've seen on a baseball field in a while. Andy Pages with a weak ground ball to third base. Brett Beatty spikes it, and then Francisco Alvarez, perhaps channeling the NBA Finals, did his best box out on Reed Garrett to prevent him from tagging Will Smith out. I mean, it was a weird play. You can't really predict it, but those are the kind of things I guess you need to have when you have a come-from-behind win, right?
Yeah, so it was. I had a chance to go to the game, so I was there, and ironically, I was there with a Mets fan. So this guy, my buddy Jeff Serralo, he's over from Long Island, and it was so good sitting there with him, watching him just. I mean, initially they blamed Beatty because of the way that it looked from the field, and he's yelling profanities. What the F? What did this? We lost the World Series this way, and he's as mad as he can get. But when that picture dropped, and I'm looking for it so we can show anybody who may have missed it, when that picture dropped of the box out from Alvarez, I was just like, that is the most wonkiest way to tie a game. And hey, shout out to Conforto for delivering after. This was an interesting game, but I mean, Dodgers pulled through. I know we didn't see any homers on their end. We saw some more homers off of Knack, but the offense pulled through, and this was an exciting game, especially to be at.
Yeah, I've had just about enough of Pete Alonso. Like, I'm glad they're done. I'm glad they're done with the Mets for the regular season. I don't need to see Pete Alonso ever again. But to that point, I mean, it was a rough start for Landon Knack, Jeff. He gave up a couple of home runs early in the ball game. He gave up 3 home runs early in the ball game. Didn't give them any length. I mean, I don't really know what to read into it. He's just sort of been up and down all year long, and this was just not a great start for him.
Yeah, we had Bruce Kuntz on our show last night, and he made the great point of, you probably didn't set Landon Knack up for success, giving him a day game in Dodger Stadium for a guy who struggled with the home run ball, and balls are just flying out of Dodger Stadium yesterday. But he had actually been on a streak of some good pitching, had given them 6 innings in back-to-back starts coming into this. He had closed his previous start with 4 scoreless innings. So He had allowed 2 earned runs in his previous 16. So I still think Landon Knack is a fine, 4th or 5th starter. He struggled a little bit this year, but it wasn't great. 3 1/3, 4 earned runs, 3 home runs is not what you want to see from Landon Knack. But I shout out to the bullpen, because that's a group that we have been dumping on for a couple of weeks, at least on our show, of just how disappointing they've been. But they held it together, 5 1/3 or 5 2/3, excuse me, just 1 earned run from a bunch of guys I don't think any of us were prepared to depend on in that situation. So kudos to them for picking up for Landon Knack.
Well, and I'll say this, that for the most part in that Mets series, the bullpen generally was pretty good. The starting pitching struggled. The defense let them down at times. But really, aside from Alonso hitting that second home run late on Wednesday night, the bullpen really held up over the 4 games. So that is something certainly encouraging. Even more encouraging, the prospect of getting Kirby Yates and or Michael Kopech back this weekend with the team in St. Louis. So it does seem like help is sort of on the way. At the same time, some guys are starting to pitch well. I mean, we've seen Bonda come in and get outs. Tanner Scott had a couple of really nice outings over the last 4 days as well. So hopefully things are starting to turn. The other thing I read this morning that's super encouraging is that from now to the rest of the season, the Dodgers have the second easiest schedule of anybody in the majors, I think, behind the Houston Astros. That doesn't guarantee wins, but having a lighter schedule combined with the fact that arms are coming back is certainly very, very encouraging. Jeff, I want to get to something you mentioned before the show, because you over at Dodger Heads are doing you guys have some Mookie Betts content. And I know Mookie has not been full Mookie so far this season, but I'm curious what it is that you guys were able to dive into.
Yeah, we've got a video posting this morning over on the Dodger Blue 1958 YouTube page.
Okay.
Blake Williams and I dive in, but it's one of these stories that I think has been mentioned, talked about, but probably less so because of a lot of the other storylines with the Dodgers. Like coming into yesterday's game, Mookie Betts was hitting 250 with a slugging percentage under 400. And so we kind of dove in on our show about whether this is a small sample size, hey, relax, not a big deal, or a guy who's 32, declining athleticism, the sprint speed, the bat speed, that kind of stuff is not in the upper echelons of Major League Baseball and something to be concerned about. And so it was kind of an interesting deep dive, because the athleticism for Mookie Betts is clearly down. I mean, when I think of Mookie Betts, I still think of a premier athlete. And when I look at his sprint speed, and I joked with you guys, he's tied with Paul Goldschmidt and Eugenio Suarez when it comes to sprint speed. So he's slower than Will Smith. He's slower than Max Muncy. That just is who he is. And yet, I think there's reasons for optimism with Mookie Betts to believe he's going to bounce back. He reaches 4 times yesterday. So I don't know where you guys are at. Like if you're concerned about Mookie Betts and how his season has been so far, but I think you could kind of make a compelling case both for and against optimism.
I mean, I didn't feel bad until now, until you compare the sprint speed to Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know, Parker. I still believe in Mookie Betts. I think he's just too talented, and maybe a year older or what have you, and getting nicked up a little bit has slowed him down a little bit. I still fully believe in Marcus Lynn Betts.
100%. I think Jeff put it the best. There's still reason to be optimistic, and it's the question is going to center around this entire season: is playing shortstop, slowing you down? Is it taking away from the rest of your game? And I think I can't remember who asked him in the post game yesterday in the locker room about that exact question, and he goes, "No, I mean I was like leading MVP votes until I got hurt. So there's no excuse. It's just this year he hasn't necessarily been finding it. And maybe yesterday was a good, like you said, Jeff, a good step towards that, where you reach 4 times, start to get that average up and the OBP up. It's Mookie Betts. He's literally MLB. It's in his name. And I'm of anybody on this squad, Mookie is the one outside of maybe Freddie and Shohei who I will trust the most in any situation.
Yeah. And for me, what's interesting is when you look at the numbers, like I've had people say, well, look at his sprint speed, look at his bat speed. Those numbers are basically identical to last year when he was a top 15 hitter in all of Major League Baseball. So the reason for optimism for me is a lot of the things people point to as far as this is why the decline is coming. I'm like, well, that existed last year and he was still. Now, I think the power, I really think the power is sort of diminishing. Like, I don't think we're ever going to see him hit anywhere close to 40 home runs again. He might be settling into like the 25 home run guy, but he can clearly impact a game offensively in a lot of different ways. I mean, even yesterday, he put an absolute laser over the center fielder's head for a huge double to score some runs in that one. So, there have been stretches where it hasn't been great. And then you look at last postseason, he was a 950 OPS guy and arguably the best player for the Dodgers through the totality of the postseason. So to be clear, I am very patient on Mookie Betts. This is going to be fine. I know the numbers aren't where we would like them to be, but again, even yesterday, I think we're going to see him go on a little bit of a run here.
Speaking of things that are identical from last year, at this point last season, the Dodgers were 38-25. At this point this season, the Dodgers are 38-25. The big difference is that the teams behind them are playing a lot better baseball right now. At this point in the season last year, the Dodgers had a 7-game lead in the NL West. Right now, it is just a 2-game lead with games coming up against the Padres and Giants in the next week or so. But Jeff, I was looking at it. I mean, they are more than halfway through this dreaded stretch, right? Yeah. We talked about the 26 games against teams with winning records. They're more than halfway through. Through 16 games, they are 9-7. They're still with a couple game lead in the division. At this point, I think if I'm for the Dodgers, obviously you can't exhale, but you got to feel pretty good about what's happened, even if it hasn't always looked pretty.
Totally agree. We knew this stretch was going to be a gauntlet, and it's not over, at St. Louis, who's probably the hottest team in the National League this weekend, at the Padres, home against the Giants, and then home against the Padres. I think those are the last 4 series that I would include here. But I posted something yesterday. I mean, they've navigated this with just 3 starts from one of their best 4 pitchers, and that's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The rest of it has been 4 starts from Landon Knack, 3 starts from May, Gonsolin, and Kershaw apiece. And so to go 9-7 against some of the best teams in Major League Baseball, like they just split with the Mets, and Yamamoto didn't pitch in that series. That was May, Gonsolin, Kershaw, and Knack, and they split with the Mets. So I think if you're the Dodgers, it's not making excuses. It's just saying you're playing really, really good teams, definitely not anywhere near 100%. And the fact that you're 2 games over 500 over that stretch, I think you have to be happy.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think this is going to be something to kind of keep an eye on. I mean, Parker, when you look at this, I mean, the offense has been good enough, although I would credit some of that to Mets pitching. I mean, we talked a little bit about the bullpen. Your thoughts on kind of what we've seen from the relievers, because it seems like the last couple of days especially, they've kind of pulled things together after a really rough stretch.
Dryer Nation, stand up. Stand up, Dryer Nation. Outside of maybe Uranus, which over under how long we're going to see him, I don't know where that is. The bullpen really has been figuring their stuff out, and seeing Tanner Scott in the extras go 1, 2, 3, and then see him recreate another good inning, just stack up confidence builders. I think that's huge. The bullpen, I mean, that's their dogs, and that's been their mantra for the last couple of years now. Whether or not it took a minute for this specific bullpen to figure it out, I don't think that matters, because when you're going through a stretch like this against so many good teams, you're going to need that bullpen. I know that the conversation's been we've been taxing them too much, but when you got the Padres, the Giants, the Cardinals, all these winning teams, sometimes they're going to rock you, and the bullpen has to step up. And hey, I think they're going to do it the rest of this series. I think, like you said, Marcus, if they can squeeze by, if they're on pace 9-7, if they can squeeze by a couple games over 500, massive win for the Dodgers.
I mean, yeah, and we talked about earlier this week, earlier this week or last week, I don't remember, but Bill Plaschke making the statement that he thought by the time this stretch was over, the Dodgers were going to fall out of playoff contention and have to battle their way back in. I said it before, I'll say it again. I have no ill will toward Bill Plaschke. I just want him to be wrong, and so far, he is proving to be sort of wrong about this. So hopefully that continues a little bit. Little bit of some injury news, mild injury news, I guess. Jeff, James Outman, Estuary Ruiz were on the taxi squad because they were a little bit worried about Kim or Edman. Seems like that's kind of a nothing burger right now, unless you know something I don't.
Yeah, when we went on our show last night, I was like, folks, I have 4 injury updates for you, and it might be the first time in history that all 4 of them are going to be positive injury updates. Guys trending in the right direction. But to your point, they had a couple guys up. I think for fear that maybe Kim or Edman was going to need a stint on the injured list, Dave Roberts said prior to the game that they think they're in the clear, and both Ruiz and Outman will be headed back to Oklahoma City. And then you mentioned it earlier, Yates and Kopech. Roberts reporting yesterday, they responded well after their live batting practice. Both should be active, quote, at some point this weekend. So with Justin Robleski coming back today, we could all pick a couple names from the current active roster of guys that we'd be perfectly fine if we never saw them in a Dodgers uniform ever again. So I think what's key, we're just talking bullpen. I think what's key about Kopech and Yates is not that we're penciling those guys into like the top of the trust tree necessarily. Mm-hmm. It's that those guys are going to come in and they're replacing dudes at the bottom of the trust tree. It's lengthening the bullpen more so than adding to the depth. And Yates, I think, is maybe a guy I'm more confident that a week from now I might have closer to the top of the trust tree. Kopech is just an upgrade, in my opinion, in the short term over Ryan Ludis or Jose Urena or whoever else. Like, he's just a better version of those guys. And so some good news there.
Yeah, and I was just, it's because to your point, I know in the comments, Roy Estrada mentioned, Kopech has command issues. Yates was struggling before he went on IL, not necessarily a good thing. I get your point. I understand what you're saying, Roy. But to Jeff's point, seeing Kopech back, seeing Yates back means, fewer outings for Jose Urena. It means, some of these guys at the back end of the bullpen that, we're not totally confident in. I'll say this, Lou Trevino, he's been good, all things considered. I mean, considering he was a washout with the Giants, he's come to the Dodgers and pitched pretty well, I think, over the last few outings or so. Turning our attention to the weekend, the Dodgers go to St. Louis for 3 games. Jeff mentioned it. Justin Robleski. I knew it was with a J. Is going to get the start today against Sonny Gray. Parker, it has not been a great go for Robleski so far this year. Your level of confidence going into this weekend?
We've been saying this about Knack the last few starts, and he's actually put up some good numbers, decent numbers for his standards. Just got to eat it. Robo. And the Cardinals, like you mentioned, they've been hot, Jeff. And I think that this is going to be one of those ones where if we don't see, it's first inning run support.
Yeah.
Every single game at this point, it's like Dodgers are down. It feels 1-0, 2-0 by the end of the first. And if we can see Dodgers maybe get through just one inning, Robo, if you can get through one, that confidence will be there. And whether or not you get some runs off of you the next few ones, you should be okay. Because I'm confident in the offense, even though they don't perform usually very well in St. Louis. I'm confident that the offense is going to ride Conforto's confidence. They're going to be okay.
Yeah. I'm with you with Robleski. It's been ugly. It's a guy I like in the long term, but this season, both at the major league level and the AAA level, has kind of been a nightmare for him. And, as I joked before we hopped on, unfortunately for him, it's actually been getting worse down at the AAA level, not better. And so, my thing was Kasperius is available today. I think if you can get 6 innings out of Robleski and Kasperius as a tag team, then I think that's a victory. They've got 3 or 4 arms that can pick up the last 3 innings. That's not an ideal situation, but we're not starting from ideal. There's a lot of guys who are just going to be unavailable. So if they can get 6 from Kasperius and Robleski and maybe have allowed, I would say even like 4 runs through 6, that's not a high bar, but it feels like and maybe an attainable one. I don't know, Marcus.
Yeah, it's funny when you started that sentence, like if you can get 6 out of Robleski, and I was like, that feels impossible. And then when you threw in the Kasperius part of the back end, it's like, okay, that seems a little more realistic. I do want to ask you, Jeff, is this weekend the battle for the soul of Nolan Arenado? Because he keeps popping up in trade rumors. I know the Cardinals are still very much in playoff contention, so maybe that sort of dampens it. But if you're Max Muncy, are you a little bit irked that you may be playing against the guy that could come and take your job?
I think fortunately for Max Muncy, the way he has been playing of late and the way Arenado has been playing of late, that this debate, I think, exists less so in reality than it has in the past. I was trying to pull up Arenado's splits, hitting 170 or hit 221 in the month of May and 176 in, 4 games in the month of June. So Muncy trending up and to the right, Arenado trending down and to the left. So maybe this is the series instead of for the soul of Arenado. Maybe this is the series where the Arenado to the Dodgers rumor dies once and for all. I don't know.
Could be. We'll see. By the way, I was scrolling the news this morning and I saw an article from a writer in Newsweek suggesting that Max Muncy could be DFA'd, and that to me just that just screams somebody who has not watched the Dodgers recently. That just is sort of looking at the numbers and seeing that Muncy is not performing as well as he normally would.
Shambles, Marcus.
Shambles. The Muncy haters are in shambles right now. Maybe. I still think.
So, Jeff, I wanted to ask you, just based off of All-Star voting starting to come around.
Yes, Andy to Conforto, if that's what you're going to ask me. Sorry, were you going to ask something else?
Pages, All-Star or no? I mean, Dodgers fans are obviously going to push and get him as close as he can get, but in terms of just advanced stats, is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, we looked it up last night. I think among all National League players, he's like 17th in weighted runs created plus, which is sort of a smoothed over offensive stat to compare guys. So one spot ahead of Fernando Tatis Jr. for some context there. So, I mean, he's obviously in the mix. Obviously, the last month, he seems to be trending in the right direction. Like if you had to guess if he was going to be higher or lower on that list in 3 weeks, I would probably guess higher based on how he's playing and the hole he's had to dig himself out of. All that said, fortunately for the Dodgers most of the time, unfortunately for a guy like Pages, this is a popularity contest. This is a name brand recognition contest. And so there are probably years where the Freddie Freemans, Mookie Betts types get more all-star appearances than maybe they deserve. And it comes at the expense of guys like Andy Pages. So I think he deserves to be in the conversation. If I was a betting man, I would not bet on him actually being rewarded for the season he's having, although he definitely belongs in the mix for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at that yesterday because I did vote. I voted for Pages for the record. I threw him a vote, but like I'm sort of looking, and I do wonder, even though he hasn't played most of the season, does a Ronald Acuna just make it on name value? A Corbin Carroll maybe get in there. There are some names that I think is going to be tough for him to beat out, but I do think he's deserving. So I don't know, maybe there's some sort of supplemental vote or a manager selection or something like that gets him in there because he's like, look, Juan Soto probably is going to get voted to the All-Star game. Has not hit particularly well so far this year with the Mets, but he's a known quantity and people will want to see him in the All-Star game. So that could be tough for Pages. Jeff, always appreciate you hanging out with us. What you guys got going on over at the Dodger Blue 1958 and at the Dodger Heads pod?
Yeah, we got the Mookie Betts video up again, 20 minutes breaking down kind of his numbers over the last 12 months and optimism, pessimism. So that was a fun one to do with Blake. And then we'll be live on Sunday night. We're live every Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Sunday night. So you can subscribe over at the Dodger Blue 1958 page.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate Jeff hanging out with us. Hopefully, Greg Bergman is getting his dental work all nice and shiny, so we can see him back with us again next week. But should be a fun series coming up this weekend in St. Louis. It'll be Justin Wroblewski going against Sonny Gray this evening. And I think you can actually watch this one on Sportsnet LA. I think for the first time in a couple of weeks, they're not going to be on Apple TV on a Friday night. So
we're so back.
We are so back. I don't know what that means. In the meantime, appreciate you guys hanging out with us in the chat. Thanks to the folks at LAX as always for helping us get this together. And, enjoy the weekend, everybody. For Jeff, for Parker, I am Marcus. This has been the Blue Review. Stick around. Travis DeMarco coming up on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. Back with you on Monday, 8:30 to 8:55. Think Blue. We'll see you then.